Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Transformational Tuesday with Tasha. I am your host, Tasha M. Scott, and it is an honor for you to be on here and join me tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. And to everyone on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, welcome. So, if you are joining me for the first time, I would love for you to let me know in the comments this is your first time tuning in with me, or if you are one of my regular attenders, would love to know that you're here watching with me as well. We've been on this journey for 10 weeks. This marks the 10th week that we've been on this journey of transformation. And we've been going through a book called Atomic Habits, written by a gentleman named James Clear. And I love the reports that I'm getting back from people who are telling me I'm watching along with you or I'm watching the replay. So shout out to all of my replay viewers. Thank you for being on this journey with me. For those of you all, I love to just let you know who don't know me. I'm the owner of Maximized Growth LLC, which is located in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm a training and development company, and I love to do training for leaders, influencers, as well as teams, specifically in the area of communication. We talk a lot about leadership development and teamwork. And I love introducing people to themselves. And this journey that we've been on for 10 weeks now has been a personal journey for me because if I had to look at one of my core values, I would say transformation is definitely top of the list. And I'm also excited, y'all, to announce that this is actually a podcast on YouTube now. YouTube, people have been doing podcasts on YouTube for a while now. That's video and audio. But YouTube has definitely decided to roll out a feature where you can actually do a podcast on Perfect and it's streaming through YouTube Music. So if you do me a favor, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, no matter what platform you're watching, if you'll go to my channel and it's at Maximized Now on YouTube, and just subscribe for me. I'm really trying to get my views up. So, again, I'm excited to announce that this is a podcast on YouTube now and it's streaming through YouTube Music. And this is going to be an amazing journey as we dig deeper into this. So, like I mentioned, this is episode 10. Tonight, we're going through chapter 10 of the book Atomic Habits. And for those of you all who are curious, we go through a chapter a week. So, there's 20 chapters total. There's 20 chapters total. And when I first decided to do this, I'm an overachiever. I admit it. I was like, well, we're going to do like 2 or 3 chapters every time. That was the overachiever in me. But then I realized, wait, hold time out. We're talking about habits. What if I just came on every week and was consistent and went through each chapter and given us time, myself included, to not just get information, but to have some time to implement the information that we're learning? Because what is transformation if you're not having accountability and implementation, right? So I decided to slow my roll and really just focus on one chapter a week. So tonight is chapter 10. There are 20. And when we get through this with this book, we'll go on to our next book. But I love doing these book studies because it gives us a deeper dive into content together. And when I looked up, speaking of the title Atomic Habits, I looked up the definition of atomic. It is an extremely small amount of a thing, the single irreducible unit of a larger system. It's also the source of immense energy or power. When I think about the word immense, I think explosive. So that was the definition of atomic. And then when I looked up the word habit, it says a routine or practice performed regularly, an automatic response to a specific situation. And how many of y'all, let me know in the chat, how many of y'all coming into this year really needed to hone in on improving your habits? Because here's the thing, we all have habits, we all have good and bad habits. So some of us really needed to hone in on improving the good habits and letting go of the bad and toxic. Is this an area that was near and dear to your heart? Is that why you're on here with me? Because I've got both hands raised. So here we are digging into atomic habits. Let me say hello. Hello, Mertice. Thank you for joining me tonight. All right, y'all. So I always like to do reviews just in case somebody missed last time we were together. But last time we were talking about the role of family and friends in our habits. And if you missed it, you can always go to my website, Maximize Growth LLC, and under the section video blogs, you can always catch up with all of the videos or go straight to my YouTube channel. But last week was a really, really juicy topic, and we were talking about the role of family and friends. And in that conversation, quite a few of us were like, you know what? It's time to do an evaluation of who we are allowing into our hearts and to our minds. And the thing that he talked about last week was the culture that we live in determines the behaviors that are attracted to us. This is a little bit of a review. And he said we tend to adopt habits that are praised and approved by our culture because we have a strong desire to fit in and belong to the tribe. And we talked last time about how a lot of times the people that we're in proximity with, our friends, our family, our coworkers, whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of times we're picking up on habits because of the proximity of those that are surrounded by us. And so what he was saying was we've got to do a better job of setting boundaries. And we have to do a better job of really being intentional about going back all the way to the beginning. Who do we want to become? And I get it. There's certain people like family and coworkers. It's not like you can just say, I'll never be around you again, because let's face it, it's our family, or we have jobs. Y'all have jobs that you go to. You're around people. But when we are intentional about our identity and who we want to become, guess what? We become the influencer instead of being the influenced. Make sense? He also said last week, one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture on purpose who has the same desired behavior that you want to attain to. So that could be a church, it could be a meetup group, it could be anybody. But pretty much, if you want to grow on purpose, I always say this: get in rooms that scare you, get in rooms with people that are bigger than you, because a lot of times what happens is their behavior that we're trying to strive for, their habits are they're going to become normal to us. And he says also, people that you already have something in common with, and we talked about this last time about how do you find those groups, how do you gravitate towards those groups? And it's not about just cleaning house and saying to all your current friends, you know what, I'm done with y'all. It's not that. Sometimes it's the little conversations that we have every day. It could be a networking event, it could be church, it could be at the grocery store, it could be at the drugstore. But sometimes it's the initial conversations that we have with people, and we find out we have things in common with people. So it doesn't have to be as complicated as we think. And then he said, this was really powerful. He says, if a behavior can get us approval, respect, and praise, we find it attractive. And that's why a lot of times we're adapting to the social norms, is because we're looking for that approval. We're looking for that respect, and we're looking for that praise, because let's face it, y'all, we're all wired for community. We're wired for connection. The key is being intentional about the connection in the community. So that was just a little bit of review from last week. Again, I probably didn't do it justice, but go back and watch the video from last week. You can either go to my YouTube channel or you can go to my website, and really some of the comments, that's what I love most about this, is the comments that y'all bring to the table, because some of the comments were really, really good. So tonight we're talking about chapter 10 in Atomic Habits, and we're talking about how to find and fix the causes of your bad habits, or if we had to rename this, how to transform your hard habits into attractive ones. How many of y'all, okay, this is really, I'm going to raise my hand before I even ask the question. How many of us have bad habits? Every last one of us, right? If we're honest. If we're honest, every last one of us are a work in progress, and we all have bad habits. We have things that we do and we're like, dog, why did I do that? You know, But I love here where he's talking about our underlying motives. He's talking about the underlying motives on how we gravitate toward these bad desires or habits, and how do we fix it. Again, my key word is intentionally. He talks about laws of behavior change. And I say this all the time, it's a mindset thing. I probably sound like a broken record, but it is definitely a mindset thing. And Maria says, yep, bad habit central. I hear you, Maria. I hear you. So he talks about laws of behavior change because let's face it, y'all, willpower is not enough. It's not enough to wish it away, to, none of that. But he says there's some laws around behavior change if we're going to be intentional. And the first law he talked about is, first, if we want to have good habits, we have to make it obvious. Make it obvious. And we spent a lot of time in our previous episodes talking about how to make it obvious. The second law of behavior change, which is what we're talking about tonight, he said we have to make it attractive because we gravitate towards things that are attractive. Correct? We do. And here's the thing, sometimes those things that we're attracting or attracted, that we attract or that are attractive to us, may not always be good things, but we gravitate towards things that are attractive. So what he's saying here is the first law, second law of behavior change is, if we want to have good habits, we want to make them attractive. But the inverse of this law is, if we want to break up with our bad or our toxic habits, we have to make them unattractive. And he says, in making them unattractive, we have to look at our motives, our underlying motives. We all have them. And when he talks about our underlying motives, they come in the form of desires. And he listed a couple of these. I'll read the list. He says, we may have a desire to conserve energy, to obtain food and water, to find love and reproduce. We may have a desire to connect and bond with others. We may have a desire to win social acceptance and approval. We may have a desire to reduce uncertainty or achieve status and prestige. Is there anything else that you would add to this list on underlying motives, things that we desire as humans? Is there anything that I'm leaving out? Let me read the list again. Conserve energy, obtain food and water, find love and reproduce, connect and bonds with others, win social acceptance and approval, reduce uncertainty, achieve status and prestige. Is there anything that you would add to this list? Because he says what happens is we have these underlying motives, which include these desires. And what happens is we have cravings, and our cravings come from these desires, right? And so he even says most of the products that we consume, that we're surrounded by, they're habit forming, and they don't really create new motivations. Instead, what they're doing is they're feeding these underlying motives of human nature to create cravings. And so our habits really are nothing more than associations of our cravings, and that's what makes them good or bad, right? Because you think about some of those things. For example, we talked about the connecting and bonding with others. We're on a platform right now, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, however you're watching me, it's a social media platform. So we can look at that underlying motive and desire to connect and bond with others, and we create this habit of checking our social media constantly for likes, for follows, for things. And now, here's the thing, that may not be a bad thing in context. But how many of y'all know anything that we consume too much of can turn into something bad? It can turn into something toxic, depending on how bad that craving is. Are y'all following me? He says another one is uncertainty. We want to reduce uncertainty. And so a lot of times, the last thing, and I'm guilty of this, the last thing I want to be is uncertain. I'm the type of person I need to know what are we doing, where are we going, where is this going? I to my own detriment, I'm just wired that way. But sometimes we have a craving for wanting to know so much that it can cause us to have anxiety. It can cause us to go into habits or perform habits that are not good for us, right? And so that on the flip side can be a good thing, because curiosity can be something that can be a healthy thing if in the right context. So all of this boils down to motives, underlying motives. That's what it all boils down to. And he says underlying motives can be addressed in different ways. We can look at it and say, here's another example: stress. To reduce stress, one person might say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out for a run, or I'm going to take a walk, or I'm going to exercise. Now that's a healthy habit, right? That's habits gone right. Right? That's a good underlying motive. The motive is to reduce stress, but the perspective is what I'm going to do is I'm going to adopt this healthy habit so that I can reduce stress by doing something healthy. But another person, now if you smoke, don't get offended. I'm just reading the book, okay? But he said another person might say, I'm stressed out, so I'm going to go take a smoke, or I'm going to go drink, or whatever. And I'm not saying in some cases, again, something that has gone to the excessive, that's when it starts to be toxic or dangerous for us or bad, right? So it's all a matter of how we look at it, and that helps us determine whether this is going to be a good habit or whether it's going to be a bad habit. And really, what we're doing, he said, when we do this, we're associating our habit with our problems. We have a problem. So what happens is the habit addresses the problem and solves it in this way. So when we talked about I'm stressed, so what happens is running actually eases my stress. That's a good thing, right? But on the flip side, I'm stressed. And so now I'm going to do something toxic or negative to ease my stress. Now, I don't want you to put your business out here, because I definitely want you to stay tuned and engage. But I want you to just think about this for a minute. Think about the moments that you get stressed out, or maybe you have these desires for, like what we talked about. Where do you gravitate towards the most? We talked about reducing uncertainty, winning social acceptance and approval, finding love, obtaining food, water, conserving energy, achieving status and prestige. Where do your habits tend to lead you the most? Are you the type of person where we use the example of, I'm going to do something positive, like I'm going to go exercise, I'm going to go run, I'm going to do something healthy? Or do you find yourself doing something that is endangering you? Now, it might not be wrong for anybody else, but for you, I'll give you a prime example. I'm going to tell on myself. So there was a time where when I got stressed out, I would literally go to the drugstore. It'd be like CVS or Walgreens. And I had a really bad addiction to sugar, y'all. I mean, like really bad. I would literally go to the drugstore and I would buy these bags of jelly beans, or the gummy kind of candy. And it's bad when I felt like an addict, because I'd sit in the car and I would literally eat the whole bag. And I'm not talking about a small bag either. I would literally sit there and eat it. And then it wasn't just, I would have the gummy candy, and then I would have some chocolate, and then I'd wash it down with some kind of caffeine drink. And I had a sugar overload, right? But what I was doing was I was numbing myself. Anybody relating to what I'm saying so far? I was numbing myself. I was taking something like stress, and instead of doing something good and healthy to ease the stress, what I found myself doing was I was consuming sugar to the nth degree, and literally was feeding an addiction, to where all of a sudden it was not good, y'all. I'd have headaches, being in the bathroom, like all kind of crazy stuff. It was not good because I was hurting myself. I was hurting my system. Mertice, thank you for your honesty. Mertice says mine is Snickers ice cream bars. So you get me, right? So that was something that for me, I had to really reevaluate how I was dealing with my stress. And I knew that I couldn't go into a sugar coma every single time. Especially, I knew it was bad. I knew it got bad when I'd literally just be sitting in the car and I'm hiding the wrappers. I'm like an addict for real. Like I'm eating it in the car by myself, and then I'm hiding the wrappers. That's pretty bad. And that's how I was dealing with my stress. That's just one example. I could probably give you some more, but that's one example. So what I decided to do was not associate sugar with a solution for myself. So that's one of the reasons, one of them. There's others, but that's one of the reasons why I have been on this health kick, because I have been finding healthier ways, healthier habits to deal with. Now it's I go to the gym. I have a trainer. I have built a workout room here in my house. I drink water. I'm talking things through. I have had counselors. I have had a life coach. I have friends, not many. We don't need to talk to everybody, but I have people that I can check in with. I journal. These are just some examples of how I traded my bad habits, my toxic habits of those things, and now I have healthier alternatives. And now I'm not damaging myself. I'm not having to recover from a sugar overdose. I mean, what do you call it? Sugar overload or whatever. And again, that's just one example. But we have to learn how to associate. If we want to be healthy, if we want to be progressive, if we want to have good habits, we have to make it attractive. And so when I associate these healthy things, it's not like, oh Lord, I gotta work out now. Or oh Lord, I gotta drink my water. Or oh my gosh, I gotta go do this. Nope. I'm making it attractive because one, I love the results that it brings. I feel good. I look good. And this is, I'm not bragging. I'm just being honest, but it helps these things become attractive to me. So now the byproduct is I don't want that anymore. I don't want the bad thing. I don't want the toxic thing, because this is more attractive over here. And that's one thing that he talks about in this book, in this chapter, is making the things that are good, that we desire, that put us in the forward direction, right? Making them attractive so that then this other thing over here, now I can go to the store and I can walk past jelly beans or all that stuff. Now, here's the thing, I know better because we had a chapter where we talked about environment, right? Where we have to make our environment conducive. So I know better now. I don't buy it because I'm not crazy enough to believe that I might have a weak moment where it might be 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning where that stuff is in my pantry. And I'm like, gravitating towards it because it's there. When I say make it unattractive, I mean also make it invisible, right? So where I don't have as easy of an access to it. Now, you could substitute candy for anything. You fill in the blank. Whatever your bad habit is, whatever your toxic habit is, and here's the thing, we can fool some of the people most of the time, but when we're exposed to ourselves, you can't hide from you if we're honest. And so only you know what your bad habits are. Only you know those things that you have taken it to the extreme. It's robbing you of your energy. It's robbing you of your peace. You're guilty about it. You feel shame about it. Hello? Am I talking to anybody? Only you know what those things are. And so what I'm here to tell you, which I love this chapter, he's saying, you know what? Now, he didn't say these words, this was my interpretation. We actually have more power than we realize, y'all, because we can do something about it. right? We can do something about it. We're not stuck. Stuck means we don't have options. We have options. And the option is in this second law of behavior change is to make the thing that is healthier, that will fuel our growth, that will fuel the person that we're supposed to be, to make it more attractive. And we have in our control to make that other thing less attractive. Maria says, mine used to be buying craft supplies. I've been free for a year and more money. I love it. So, Maria, what I'm hearing you say is now that you have this more money over here, that's more attractive to you. That's more attractive, right? And so I'm so far off my notes. Let me see where I am. But this is really good. He says, I like this. He says, your brain is continually absorbing information and noticing cues in the environment. Every time you perceive a cue, your brain runs a simulation and makes a prediction about what to do in the next moment. That's what a habit will do for us. It's like what happens is we have proximity to something, we whether it's information, whether it's sugar, craft store like Maria is talking about, or a Snickers ice cream bar, and our brain is saying to us, do this. And what happens is when we start doing stuff on autopilot, all of a sudden that's where the habit forms, is we just do things without thinking about it anymore. We have to on purpose be intentional, right? Marti says, I choose, I choose to go for a walk versus going straight to food or sleep it off. Yeah, that's good. And then when you look at that, Martise, you think about, this is more attractive to me, because what's the alternative, right? Here's some cues that he talked about in the book. He says, here's a cue. He said, you think about, you notice that the stove is hot, right? And a lot of times what happens is when we have a cue, our brains are making predictions about what to do next. So the cue is, you notice the stove is hot. The prediction is, if I touch it, I'll get burned. So I should avoid touching it. And this happens instantly. Here's another cue. You see, you're sitting in your car and you're at a traffic light. The cue is the light turns green. The prediction, if I step on the gas, I'll make it safely through the lights and get to my destination. Cue, prediction. It literally happens. And y'all, we don't even think about these kind of things anymore, do we? Because it has become habit forming for us. And just like those things, which are minute things, can become habit forming, guess what? We can on purpose create habits that will help us and be good and be attractive, right? And all of this, like you said, happens instantly. And he also mentions that really life, it feels reactive. It feels like we're walking around reacting to this, that, and the other. But really, he said, it's usually predictive. We're thinking a lot more than we realize. Our behavior is dependent on the cue and the prediction right there. And so what happens is the predictions lead to feelings, which is how we describe a craving in the first place. It's a feeling, an urge, it's a desire, right? And feelings and emotions transform the cues. Okay, so we talked about the stove, and we say, I'm not going to touch the stove because I don't know if you were younger, if you were the kind that you touched the stove and you got burned, and what did you feel? You know, so now I'm not going to do that. But what he's saying, a lot of this is really fueled by our feelings and our emotions. And that's what transforms these cues that we perceive and these predictions that we make an instant decision on what we're going to do. Good habit, bad habit. And I thought about this, y'all, when I thought about the feelings and emotions. And here lately, one of the things that I've been really honed in on is relaxing. I've been honed in on relaxing more because I realize that when I'm more relaxed, my feelings are not here, there, and everywhere. My emotions are not all over the place. Y'all feel me? I don't have the anxiety. I don't have the stress, the pressure. And so on purpose, I'm learning how to relax more. And y'all, that's different for me because I remember I've been in business. I feel like I've been in business for 20 some years now, full time entrepreneur in business. And I remember having habits of being a workaholic. I remember having habits of, there was no such thing as work life balance. Like everything was chasing things, and not just money either, but just chasing. And life was on autopilot in a negative way. But now and here's the thing, when that was happening, my feelings and emotions, I wasn't always making the best decisions. I wasn't. I was, again, just all over the place. But I realize now in this season of life that I'm in, the importance of relaxing, having moments. Here's the thing, it may not be a whole day, but it can be moments where on purpose, I did it today. Every day it might be different, but today was a prime example. So I went to the gym today and I had a session with my personal trainer. And after it was over with, I on purpose went to, they have a sauna in the gym. And on purpose, I went into the sauna and I just sat there for 10 minutes. I didn't have music on, I didn't have anything, but I just sat there and I practiced breathing. And it was therapeutic. And after I left there, it really set the pace for my whole day. And again, we're talking about how, what's the title of this? Because again, this is really good. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. And if you think about it, the root causes of it is these underlying motives that are fueled by our feelings. And if we're not careful, our feelings can mislead us if we don't take the time out to be intentional about properly caring for our feelings and our emotions. I know this is helping somebody. We have to be really careful. Mertice says that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I love it. I love it. And so feelings and emotions help us determine our course of action. What's the best course of action that we're going to take, right? And Mr. Clear said in the book, when our feelings and emotions are impaired, we actually lose the ability to make decisions. Do y'all agree with that? Do you agree? When our feelings and emotions are impaired, we actually lose the ability to make decisions. That's where anxiety or stuck or feeling like I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I don't know who to be, I don't know what my name is. We have days like that too, right? Um, and what's happening in our brain is there is no signal. There's no signal for what to pursue, but there's no signal for what to avoid. And we really are just kind of like all over the place. And that's why it's crucial that we have to take a step back as we have this conversation about habits, atomic habits. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that's why we have to take a step back and say, who do I want to become on this journey? Or somebody said something the other day and he said, I don't like the word journey because it means that there's a destination. He said, I really like saying life is an adventure. So I was like, I really like that. Who do I want to become on this adventure of my life? And whoever that person is, I'm going to have to take time. You're going to have to take time and really care properly for your feelings and your emotions, because what happens is those things are fueling our cravings and are our underlying motives that are determining what we're doing healthy and what we're doing that's toxic. Hello? And I'm going to repeat that list again of the underlying motives: conserve energy, obtain food and water, find love and reproduce, connect and bond with others, win social acceptance and approval, reduce uncertainty, achieve status and prestige. And again, if there's something that you want to add to this list of underlying motives, feel free. But he said, Habits are attractive when we can learn to associate them with positive feelings. We want to break up with our bad habits, make it unattractive. We want to gravitate more to the healthier habits, to the progressive habits, things that take us in the direction of the person that we're called to be. We have to associate these habits with positive feelings. We want to have positive feelings. You know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to, on purpose, choose to be positive. And then we can use this insight to our advantage rather than to our detriment. It requires a mindset shift. That's what all this is about. It requires a mindset shift. And I love here that he's talking about one mindset shift that we can make is how we approach things. Like Mertice, I loved how you said, for you, you said you started going on walks. You know, Maria said she was buying craft supplies and saving money, you know? And so when we associate these habits, making them attractive and associate them with positive experiences, what we're doing is we're reprogramming our brains to enjoy life, to enjoy even the things that seem hard. Exercise might seem hard, you know, like Mertice said she goes for a walk. That's probably easier said than done, you know, because some of it is finding the time. I have to go for a walk today. But what we can do is reframe that to say, you know what, I get to. Maria, saving money, finances, reprogramming your brain. So it was probably more about saving money and being having that freedom than it was about the craft supplies themselves. Would you agree with that, Maria? You know, meditation is another thing. You know, prayer is another thing. You know, instead of saying, "Oh Lord, I have to pray today," or, and I know that sounds funny to say, or I have to meditate today. What if we reframed it and said, I get to? What an honor, what a privilege that I have, that I get to pause in this moment and just pray or meditate. You know, I'm going to step on some toes when I say this, but your job. Anybody been guilty of saying, I have to go to this job today? What if you reframed that and said, I get to go to this job today because this job may be the investor for my dream or my business. This job may be teaching me things that I probably wouldn't have learned any other way. So, nope, it's not I have to go, it's I get to. I'm actually, this is what you can do. You can literally reframe and reprogram and shift your mind and say, you know what? It may not have been the way that I desired it. It may not have been the way that I planned it, but I get to be here. I get to learn the lessons that I'm learning right now. I can say that about several things in my life, you know, that I've experienced. And instead of saying, you know, feeling sorry for myself or dreading that it happened, I literally now have gotten to a place where I say, thank you that it happened. Thank you for the people that crossed my path that were part of that experience. Thank you. I am so grateful for them. I'm so grateful for those experiences. I am so grateful that I got to learn how to trust, how to love, how to forgive, how to let go. I am so grateful that I got a chance to learn how to show up when life got hard. I am so grateful that I had an opportunity to hit rock bottom, but then come right back up. Now, it wasn't instantly, I'm not saying that, but I am so grateful for everything that life has brought my way. I didn't have to go through that. I got to go through that. And I'm going to turn it on you. Think about you right now. And we're talking about these habits, right? We're talking about who you want to become. We're talking about your identity. And some of us have been talking ourselves out of things by our words. We've been talking ourselves out of things and canceling things out because we have been saying, I have to. And I'm challenging you to reframe that, to change your mindset tonight and say, you know what? I'm going to literally write down everything that's happening in this season. I'm going to write down every habit, and maybe you can do a column, good habits and bad habits. And I'm going to write a list. You know how you do those lists of pros and cons? I'm going to literally write the list and say, these are the good habits. And I'm going to keep doing those, because if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. But this list of bad habits right here, I'm going to evaluate this list of bad habits. What is the underlying motive of this bad habit? We used an example of social media. Maybe you're addicted to likes and shares and all that stuff in a negative way, and maybe the underlying motive is maybe that you just want to be accepted, or you just want to be connected, you know. Whatever that looks like for you, you literally get to shift your mindset and make the habit attractive by starving it of the negative attention. um, in here, he says, when we transition from seeing these behaviors that are bad, when we transition from seeing them from bad to seeing them as positive, we can look at them and see that they are opportunities. The name of my business is Maximize Growth. And I named it Maximize Growth for this reason. I said, and this came from a personal experience with me. I named it Maximize Growth because I said every person has a God-given right to grow to their fullest potential. And when you think about the word maximize, you think about the highest elevation um, possible. And so every person has a God-given right to maximize. And so every everything in your life that you have been through has been an opportunity. Everything that you're going into is an opportunity. Everything that you are experiencing right now is an opportunity. So, my friends, I'm just challenging y'all tonight to just rethink this thing. So, if it's a bad habit that you're experiencing, if it's an unhealthy habit, don't beat yourself up over it. Resist the urge to judge yourself. Just do something about it. That's all I'm saying. All right, I see some friends on here. Maria says, yes, sometimes a significant life event changes your perspective. Tracy says, relearning. Demetrius, hey, Demetrius. She says, wonderful message, Sharon. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mertice. Thank you. And I'm talking to myself tonight, y'all. You know when something is really good, when you're like, you don't care who is commenting or anything. You're like, in the church that say I'm preaching myself happy, but I'm talking myself happy tonight, you know? And there's something on purpose, like I told y'all, on purpose, I have said, you know what? I am going to, on purpose, live a more relaxed life so that I give my feelings and my emotions a chance to be positive. And then I can recover faster when negativity does come, because it comes to all of us. Hello. It comes to all of us. When negativity does come, I can recover faster from it because now I can see it for what it is. And when you can get to that place, like I told y'all, these are opportunities for growth. So, one of the things I told you, for me, I'm learning how to be more relaxed now. Yes, I'm still in business. Yes, I'm still selling and marketing, and I'm doing the things that I need to do. Doesn't mean that I take a break from life and I just go into this thing and I'm like, okay, I want everything to come to me and I don't do any work. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I'm changing my approach on how I show up. And I'm making sure that I create margins in my day, in my week, to where on purpose I am able to go at a pace that is not the way I used to be, and that was workaholic mode. And honestly, y'all, I'm happier. I'm happier. And I also am more strategic too. So one of the things, okay, I told you I'm relaxed. The other thing is I'm choosing on purpose to be happy. And another book that I'm reading, and I don't know, I may bring that book in here too. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. And if you have any proximity to me, I have told you about this book. right? But one of the things in here he talks about is acquiring the habit of happiness. And it's amazing to me how when you start studying something, when you start exposing yourself to something, how that thing starts showing up in every area of your life. So because I'm doing atomic habits, now everywhere I turn, I'm running into all things habits, right? Coincidence? I think not. I think because I have made this thing attractive, now I'm attracting things to me. So I want to end this by reading this. And he talks about in this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, there's a chapter in here about acquiring the habit of happiness. Because remember, I talked about tonight how our feelings and our emotions, if we can get those healthy, that will actually help with those underlying motives. And that will actually help us with the cravings to make those cravings go in a more attractive direction. So, check this out. These are affirmations: acquiring the habits of happiness. One, I will be as cheerful as possible. I will try to feel and act a little more friendly toward other people. I am going to be a little less critical and a little more tolerant of other people, their faults, failings, and mistakes. I will place the best possible interpretation upon actions. Insofar as possible, I am going to act as if success were inevitable, and I already am the sort of personality I want to be. I will practice acting like and feeling like this personality. I will not let my opinion color the facts in a pessimistic or negative way. I will practice smiling at least 3 times during the day. Regardless of what happens, I will react as calmly and intelligently as possible. And lastly, I will ignore completely and close my mind to all those pessimistic and negative facts which I can do nothing to change. Did that speak to y'all tonight? Was there anything that I shared tonight that just touched you, your heart, your mind, that just struck you? I'm going to actually read that again. Acquiring the habit of happiness. I will be as cheerful as possible. I will try to feel and act a little more friendly toward other people. I am going to be a little less critical and a little more tolerant of other people, their faults, failings, and mistakes. I will place the best possible interpretation upon actions. Insofar as possible, I am going to act as if success were inevitable and I already am the sort of personality I want to be. I will practice acting like it and feeling like this personality. I will not let my opinion color the facts in a pessimistic or negative way. I will practice smiling at least 3 times during the day. Regardless of what happens, I will react as calmly and intelligently as possible. And I will ignore completely and close my mind to all those pessimistic and negative facts which I can do nothing to change. My friends, tonight we were talking about how to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. And I think it's safe to say that the best way to find and fix is to really look at those underlying motives and really ask ourselves, what where are these motives taking me? What cravings, what direction are my cravings going in? Is it a healthy habit or is it a toxic bad habit? And if there's anything that you got from tonight, please know that this is within your control. This is within your power. And so I want to thank you so much for being on this with me. And I want to ask you to please share this. Thank you. I think Demetria said she shared it tonight. Thank you so much. And I want to remind you that this Transformational Tuesday is now a podcast on YouTube. YouTube just rolled out with their YouTube music feature, they rolled out podcasts. So it's now a podcast on YouTube. And I would love for you to be able to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Demetrius, thank you so much. And it's so good to see you on here. But would love for you to help me spread the word. And if there's anything that we want to be known for, y'all, it's that, again, positive habits. What is it that we said? Positive habits. I'm sorry, healthy habits equals positive feelings, right? And so thank y'all so much for being on here. And we'll be back next week, next Tuesday, for Transformational Tuesday with Tasha. And let me find out what we, I forgot to look at this, but what are we talking about next week? Next week, we are actually starting the third law of behavior change. So we did the first law, that was make it obvious. The second law, which we just wrapped up tonight, was make it attractive. The third law that we're going to spend the next probably 4 weeks talking about is how to make it easy. If you're tired of struggling, you want to show up for these next weeks when we're talking about making it easy. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being on here with me. I want to want a little longer tonight. I'm trying to slow down and go through this with y'all. But thank y'all for being engaging with me tonight. And I will see y'all next Tuesday right here on Transformational Tuesday with Tasha. Y'all have a good one.